Well, welcome to the National Illiam Dhone commemoration. This is a particularly significant year because although the commemoration was first held in the 1960s, the early 60s, the actual continuous yearly commemoration started in 1979 and has been held annually ever since. It was a very small gathering. There's often a lot of rhetoric about the number of people who turn up, and I'm pleased to see a lot of people here, familiar faces that I don't often see for the rest of the year. But we're not interested in numbers, we're interested in commemorating a man who was a great patriot. And despite the fact that the media are probably all waiting for Mark Kermode to berate the post office in his oration in Manx, he's actually going to dwell heavily on the historical significance of it. I mentioned that the early commemoration was a very small affair. There were only a handful of people, I think perhaps less than a dozen people. Half of them were women, many of them significant in terms of the national movement. Pat Bridson, of course, who edits Cairn for the Celtic League, was here, and Kissack, who's been very prominent in the cultural movement and cultural life of the island. My late wife Dee, Crystal Jerry, and the person I wanted to come to, Linda Ramsey. Linda, who died this year, is usually identified with the Labour Party, but she was very active in the 70s and 80s in both McFadden and the Celtic League. And all of those ladies, those who have gone on and those who are still with us, were very politically as well as culturally active. And I think it's worth highlighting that, because latterly there seems to be great surprise that a number of women have ended up in the Tynwald and House of Keys. And this sort of thing, I hope, will be further strengthened in the future, and we'll get a better mix, both demographically and also of the sexes in political life on the island. The island is facing some difficult challenges at the moment, so it would be easy for me, as I often do, to berate the government for this, that and the other. But I think if there's one year when we are going to need to pull together, it's 2019. And I do hope that the government, much as sometimes I malign it, can bring together a consensus of opinion on the island so we can ride out the various storms, particularly in relation to the challenges posed by Brexit. I think it would be useful, therefore, if the government do speedily resolve the serious industrial dispute that exists in the post office. And I do accept, and I've already said this publicly on Manx Radio, that there needs to be consensus and there needs to be a moving on both sides to achieve a settlement. The island needs to be united going forward, and Tynwald and the Council of Ministers are the body to do that. Leaving aside the brief intro, the two speakers are Mark Kermode, who will do the Manx oration and dwell significantly on the historical side, and Bill Henderson, who will raise an issue that's very close to our hearts, and that is the return of the chronicles of Man and the Isles. And again, there needs to be some sort of consensus. I hope that once again, if he and some other sympathetic colleagues in the Tynwald can get some traction in this, that we'll achieve the same progress we achieved some years ago when we were able to get the Calf of Man returned to the Manx nation.